What's up guys, CodFlaws here, and I'm going to be sharing a story with you guys, and it's my first story. I'm a bit stressed out, but I thought some of you guys would find this story interesting or entertaining and might learn from it. So as you guys saw by the title already, I'm going to be sharing you guys a story of my first ever car accident. Now I've only had my license for around a month and a half, and I've already got into a car accident, which is pretty bad. And this actually occurred yesterday, and I decided to make a video on it right now as I do remember everything that did happen. So I've been driving for around a month and a half, and I've been using an old car that no one uses in my family. It's basically a car my mom had that she used to use, and she loved that car. She never wanted to get a new one, but she finally got a new car, so that car was free and available for me. My dad doesn't really care about the car, my mom doesn't either, and the car was already a little bit beat up. It's an older car, so if something happens to it, no big deal, because accidents are bound to happen and stuff like that. When you first get your license, an accident is bound to happen, so it's better to have an accident with an older car than a new car, so I'm kind of glad I was using that car at the time. So when you first get your license, driving is really fun. You want to drive your friends everywhere. I don't know, just a great time and experience, because all your life you're kind of waiting for your license to drive around, because you know your older friends drive you, your parents drive you, and you want to experience it for yourself. So finally I'm driving everywhere, and my friend's always joking around with me saying I'm gonna get a ticket before him or something along those lines. And actually yesterday he told me that he got his first ever ticket, so he said he kind of jinxed himself. He told me I would get a ticket before him, and he actually got one before me. But the same day he told me that he got a ticket, I got into this car accident. So I guess that's kind of ironic, but yesterday when I got into the car accident, it was a beautiful day, the most beautiful day of spring so far. It was around 80 degrees, the sun was shining, I was in a tank top for the first time because it was really hot outside. I went to the gym, I finished out my workout, and across the street from the gym is a soccer field, so I went to go play some soccer with my friends. Or of course football, but after we finished playing we were tired and hungry, so we went to go get some pizza. I took 3 of my friends with me to go get some pizza, and after we finished eating, I decided to take them home because like I said, I found it kind of fun driving. So when you turn 17, you get your license, and it's called a probationary license, and you're only allowed to have like 1 friend with you, so I had 3 friends in the car with me at the time. So I drove that 1 friend home no problem. He lived pretty close to the pizza place, and after I drove him home, I wanted to go home, and to go home there are 2 different routes to go home. One way I knew how to go home, and the other way I didn't really know how to go home, because 1.5 months of driving, I don't really have too much experience. So I decided to take the route I really don't take that much, because it's much faster to drive my other friends home. So my friend doesn't really live by a main street, but to take my other friends home I had to go onto like a main street, and I didn't really know that street too well. So I went on that street, and there's like 3 different lanes or 2 different lanes, and one of the lanes was a right only lane, and the other ones you could keep going forward, and by accident I was on the right only lane and I wanted to keep on going forward. Now if I turn right, I would not know how to get home since I never been there. I didn't know what highway it was, or I don't know, I've just never been there, and I was really terrified of going on it. So I was on a red light right now, and I really didn't want to go right, and I looked into my left mirror to turn onto the left lane to keep on going straight instead of the right only lane. So I look into my left mirror, there are no cars, absolutely no cars, so I start turning to go into the normal lane to keep on going forward. Now I forgot to look into my blind spot, and there was like a van or a minivan, whatever you guys want to call it, and I kind of crashed right into him. It was 100% my fault, and his car had no damages at all. It was like a little scratch. My car had a bit damages, but like I said, I didn't care about the damages on my car because it's an old car. I didn't care about it, but I was kind of scared what was going to happen. So when I crashed into him, there was a bit of damage on my car on the front left bumper and wheel of my car, and he got out of his car and he told me to pull over, so I pulled over and he pulled over behind me, and he told me that he has to call the police, and I asked him why, and he said although there are no damages on his vehicle, he has to call to get a report because he's driving a business vehicle and he has to no matter what. So while this happened, I was really relaxed for some reason and scared at the same time. Like on my outside I was really relaxed, but inside I was kind of scared because this never happened to me before. Obviously it was my first time. I asked him does he really have to call, and he said yes to obviously get the report because it's a business vehicle. There was like no damage on his car whatsoever, like only a little scratch, so I was kind of relieved of that because I wouldn't have to pay or cover anything for his car because nothing happened to his car. So at this point I already dropped 1 friend off, so I had 2 friends left in the car, and with a probationary you could only have 1 friend in the car like I said, and I had 2 friends in the car, so they told me they're gonna walk home so they don't get me in trouble. I felt really bad for making them walk because it's kind of like a far walk, but anyways, they walked home. I felt really bad, and now I was just alone. But before they left, I asked them if I could use his phone to call my mom because my phone had died already. So I told my mom I'd been in this small accident. She sounded really relaxed and she thought really nothing happened, and I told her what street it was on, and then I ended the call, and my phone was dead so I couldn't call her again. So my friends were gone, and the police officer finally arrived, and he said what happened. I told him everything that happened exactly. You know, it was obviously my fault. I didn't say it was my fault, but you know, the way I described it, it's obviously my fault. So when the cop came over to me, he asked me for my license. I gave it to him. He looked at it, everything's fine, but he also needed the insurance card and the registration. And there's like a bunch of papers in the car. It's a mess. I was looking for the registration and insurance card for like 10 minutes. I couldn't find it, and I finally found it. You know, there's a bunch of papers. I found it. I gave it to the police officer, and he comes back saying it's expired, and it was expired from like 2002, 2001, and I was like, what is going on? So then I remembered I was cleaning out the car once I got my license, so maybe I took that information out of the car, the insurance card and the registration. Maybe I took it out, maybe I threw it out, but I said it was at home because it probably was. So I told him it's at home. Could I call my parents? He said sure, but then I looked at my phone and it was dead. So here I am left with no insurance card or registration. He said the fine for two of these things is $150 each, so that's $300 for both. So he said that would be the fine I would be getting, and since I don't have that information with me in the car, he said he would have to get my car towed. So I would have to get my car towed, and then he would have to drive me home, or my mom would have to pick me up or something like that. So he said the car has to get towed, so that would probably cost a lot of money as well. So once he said the car has to get towed, I was freaking out, you know, I was scared, and then I tried getting out of the car to talk to them again, but because of the accident, my driver door did not want to open because, you know, some bumper bent and something, you know, just something bent, and it didn't allow my door to open. So I had to get out of the car through the passenger door. I walked over to the cop, and I only saw one cop car. Before there was two cop cars, so one cop car had left, and there was one remaining. Now the cop that told me the car has to get towed, he left, and there was a different police officer, you know, still by the scene. So yeah, as you guys can tell, I was definitely in shock because at this point was the first time me getting out of the car. Once the accident happened, I did not care what happened to my car. I didn't get out to see what happened to my car. The only reason I knew what happened to the other guy's van is because he told me. I didn't even check on that because, you know, I was just in shock. So this police officer told me something completely different than the other one. The other one wanted to get my car towed, but this one gave me this card, and on the card had his police number and what the address was of the police station, and he told me to go to that police station, you know, by tomorrow morning and give him the insurance card and the registration. So immediately, you know, I said okay, I'll do it. You know, I had his card, and randomly I saw my mom drive by. You know, I told her I was on the street, so immediately her first instinct was to drive over. I didn't even tell her to drive over, but thank God she did. So my mom drove over with my aunt. My aunt drove my mom's car, and then my mom drove my car because I did not feel like driving. We drove to my house in search of the insurance card and the registration, and we called my dad over because he probably knew where it was, and we looked over all over the house, and it was not in the house. And then my dad found it. It was actually in the car. I looked over by the pocket where the passenger seat is. There's like a pocket, and there was a bunch of papers there, and it was not there. So if you guys remember, before I said I called my mom and she sounded relaxed, but when she drove me home, because like I said, I did not want to drive, I told her to drive, she was screaming at me the whole way home because, I don't know, I think usually moms overreact. So yeah, where I was looking the whole time was the wrong place. I was looking in the passenger storage, but it was actually the thing that you pull down where the mirror is, and it also blocks out the sun. You know, I pull it down all the time so the sun doesn't get in my eyes, but I never noticed that the insurance card and registration was over there, and it was actually there, so the whole time I had it with me. So if that cop made my car get towed, you know, that would be horrible, and thank God I ran into this nice cop. So from there, immediately we went over to the police station. I showed the person the card the cop gave me, and then they made a copy of the information that the cop needed, and from there everything is fine. There was no charges for not having the insurance card and registration. There was no charges for the other person's car. You know, everything is fine, but the only thing is I'm pretty sure the insurance will go up since I'm 17 and I got into an accident already. I'm not sure. The only thing I know is there are no fines or penalties, but there probably is some sort of thing with insurance, but I'm not too sure about that. And even though the accident was super small, nothing really happened. My mom was freaking out at first, but now she is fine with it. My dad didn't care at all because he said, you know, you have this old car, you know, if something happens, everything's gonna be fine. So once I got my license, all I wanted is a brand new car right away, and I'm glad I didn't. Now I don't even want a brand new car until I learn how to drive even better. I'm just going to keep on using this old car from now on. There are a bit of damages on it, but I'm not going to get it fixed or anything because it's not worth it. We just have to unbend something so the door could open normally, and from there everything's going to be good. So I feel really embarrassed for the mistake I made. I should have looked into my blind spot if I was changing, or stuck with the lane since I was in it already. Now I feel really stupid and embarrassed because I had to make my friends walk, plus my friends now probably think I'm a bad driver. Now since this is a very minor accident, I'm glad I did not crash into a parked car or into a pole or into a side barrier, because that's how usually people have their first accidents. So I didn't really make a horrible mistake like driving into a parked car or anything. You know, this was actually on the road with traffic and stuff like that. Well, when I looked into my mirror, there was no traffic like I said, but he was actually in the blind spot. So I don't know if you guys found this story boring or entertaining. Let me know if you guys want to hear more stories from me by dropping a like. If we could get 2,000 likes on this video, that would be amazing. I'm kind of stressed out, so all your support would be greatly appreciated. It's been CodFlaws and I'm out. Peace. Thanks for listening to this story.